Hello friends, welcome to the MARE Podcast. Before we get started, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Don't forget that you can find more about the MARE project at www.marehamburg.com, and you can support the project and this podcast through Patreon. All the links are in the description. Enjoy! Hello friends, welcome to another episode of the MARE Podcast. It is my great pleasure to welcome Stefania today to the podcast. Hello Stefania.
Hi, George. I'm really happy to be here. Honestly, I'm really happy you are offering early career researchers an opportunity to talk about the research. So excited to share.
Of course. I'm very glad you're here, and we are very glad everyone at MARE and at the Honor Frost Foundation who funds our work to give a platform to early career researchers to talk about research and to get to meet each other in the long run. So, Stefania is a complex character. She's a part biologist, mostly biologist. No, is it part biologist, part archaeologist, part geographer? How do you define yourself?
That is a very good question. So, as you said, I've had quite a journey in the academic world. So, I did an undergraduate degree in biological sciences at the University of Warwick. And after I finished that, I realized, just straight biology isn't spicy enough for me. So I decided to go and do a master's in archaeology at the University of Oxford. And the topic of archaeology was chosen not because I 100% loved archaeology. I mean, yeah, it was kind of like a hobby to keep up with what's happening in that world until my master's. But it was also purely for financial reasons and for just, I thought it would be a really cool take on climate change. So to go back on that and to explain it a little bit, um, I was looking into different master's degree at the University of Oxford, and most of them that were more on the climate change topic, as in a master's that includes in the title climate change, biodiversity, etc., would cost me like double. So I was like, okay, can I take a really cool take on climate change and do a master in something that is similar enough, but that wouldn't make me be in debt forever. So that's how I picked archaeology. And I did my master's in environmental archaeology, which is a very niche part. And then after that, I did a teaching degree. So I'm also a qualified teacher. And then right now I am doing a DPhil in biology. So I'm back to the origins.
Nice. Oh well, we have a lot to cover. Let's start from the undergrad year. So, what made you go into biology then?
I've had a really cool biology teacher when I was in school, and I think she definitely made me pursue this. Because I just thought biology was like the most interesting subject out there. Like understanding how the human body works and understanding how the world works is just so complex, and there's so much to learn that I was always fascinated by it. And to be fair, up until I went to university, I was mostly fascinated by anatomy and molecular biology, so DNA, how molecules work in the body, stuff like that. And then I went into undergrad and I realized I don't like that anymore. So I switched more towards liking things like evolution and developmental biology, uh, ecology, so things related to the environment. So I kind of switched from this like anatomical molecular passion towards a more environmentalist view. So I think that was basically all I remember from undergrad, is that, oh, there is climate change, and me studying ecology and helping the world in that way can be part of the solution, like even if it's a slight bit of the solution.
Nice. No, that's very nice. And then, as you said, the appealing cheap archaeology came in, and you rocked up. I mean, to be honest, it's not often you see people who say I did environmental archaeology, or maybe I don't talk to them as much. When you did your master's, you were the only one or one of two that were doing environmental?
Initially, there were two of us, and then I think the other person was there by mistake.
Oh, all right.
So they just switched to a different branch because they were more on the humanitarian side of archaeology, some more social archaeology. So they switched eventually. Um, yeah, so I was the only one in my group when I did environmental archaeology.
Okay, let's dig a bit deeper into that. So, environmental archaeology masters at Oxford. How does that look like? What do you do for a year in Oxford for that degree?
Oh, it was actually one of the most interesting experiences of my life because, as I said, I was the only one, and that meant all of the attention was on me. My master's was well deserved. I couldn't hide in a class of 200 and not say a word because I would always be the one that's picked on to answer. So I learned a lot. But what does that look like? So it looks like writing loads of essays, which I think was really important. Um, because, yeah, in biology, we also write essays, but we do more lab work and field work and other things. And to be fair, it wasn't that much of a different experience, but my essays in archaeology were way more consistent and structured, and they needed to have more substance to them compared to a biology essay. In biology, you mostly just report what you see. In archaeology, you actually have to like go deeper into that and link it to other fields that or other aspects of archaeology that you might not be as familiar with. So that's what I found the most interesting. But we also did lab work in environmental archaeology. So we also looked at pollen and leaves and how to identify seeds in the archaeological record. And yeah, so basically looking at how you identify different types of materials from a past record. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, how do you define the change from biology to archaeology? I mean, going into archaeological literature, was it difficult? Was it very different than biology?
I think it was way more interesting, honestly. I love archaeological literature way more just because it has this bigger than life approach to research. As in, you research what seeds you found in a barrel from 1,000 years ago. Yeah. And in the paper, you would say, oh, yeah, we've identified the following species, but you'd also say what it meant for people.
Mm.
Um, and I thought that was like such a nice touch to add to it. Like, what were those people doing? What did their life look like? How can we reconstruct their life based on, those seeds that we found at the bottom of the barrel? So I think simply through that, archaeological literature was so much more um, interesting and appealing in a way. Like you never got bored. Whereas in biology, usually the implications in papers are depending on the experiment, but they can feel like an afterthought rather than the purpose of the research.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Okay, then let the record show that archaeology is better than biology. Anyway, you said it, not me. Anyway, let's move to on to more specific topics. Like, for example, your master's thesis. For your master's, what did you do?
Okay, so for my master's thesis, basically, if you remember in the beginning, I said that I wanted to do a master's in climate change, and I settled on a master's in archaeology. And people might frown and be like, "But what do they have to do with each other?" And my master thesis was exactly on this: how can they interlink? Um, and in my master thesis, I started with the question: can archaeology help us combat climate change at any level? Can it help change somebody's life and make it better in the current global context? So, and I looked through the literature and I couldn't find anything that said, yes, archaeology can definitely help. There was only one paper that has been published at the time, and it was something to do with, oh, archaeology can help with climate change because it proves that indigenous communities have sovereignty over their land and can, it kind of gives proof that indigenous communities know what to do with their land.
Okay.
And that didn't sit well with me for a lot of reasons, but mainly because the only context in which archaeology and climate change were linked was through indigenous communities. And those aren't the only people whose history and livelihoods will be affected by climate change. It's all of us. So, yes, indigenous communities are very important to protect. But it always felt in the papers as if they're talking about these people that live so far away and are so far removed from, the authors and
Yeah, yeah.
themselves. It didn't feel real somehow. It didn't feel like this is actually a thing that people thought about. So I said, okay, how can I help? How can I link environmental archaeology, so studying past, animals, plant matter, all of things environmental from the past since humans appear on Earth, to the current global crisis. So my solution was very unique, I say. I
Of
just
course it was. Yes.
honestly, at this point, are you even surprised? So I discovered that there is a UN initiative called Agricultural Heritage Important Sites, something like that. So historical agricultural sites that are protected. So these sites are places where there is traditional agriculture taking place. So agriculture that is non-mechanized, meaning no machines, that people have been doing in the same way for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. And there are still some places like that on Earth. And they're quite valuable, because if some of those places disappear, would you say that the human experience is the same? Would you say that, that community is the same? So I think they're actually quite important to protect because they offer something cool to humanity.
Hmm.
They usually bring loads of money from tourism and the products that they make there because obviously it's organic, it's non-GMO, no machines, no pesticides, none of that. So the products that they make are also quite important. And that's where I found a link somehow between archaeology and climate change because climate change affects these places quite a lot. And my master thesis was basically looking at two such places from Eastern Europe, from the Balkans, actually, which is quite close to where I'm from. So
Where are you from? You
I'm
didn't tell us.
Romanian. Yeah, so I'm Romanian, but I'm from
Hmm.
like northeast Romania. One of my sites was in Romania, and I will talk more about that site because it's kind of the reason why I'm here. Um,
Great.
and another one of my sites was in Bulgaria. So I picked two of these sites where traditional agriculture is practiced. And both of the sites offer something to the national identity of those people that live there. They're very important to what it means to be Bulgarian, what it means to be Romanian,
Mm.
but they're not recognized in this UN initiative. So through my thesis, I kind of argued that they should be recognized, first of all, as part of this wonderful thing that is going on in the world, um, but also that they should be protected because what is done at the moment can't protect the sites from not disappearing. So my mm, kind of solution to protect the site would be partly to do more archaeological research to understand how agriculture has evolved in those places, mainly because right now there are some issues with how agriculture and aquaculture happen there to maximize products instead of
Mhm, mhm,
helping people and the environment and all of that. Whereas in the past, there was more of this emphasis on connection with the environment and kind of ensuring that things are in more of a symbiosis or more
mm,
balance, more harmony. Whereas now we're focusing on tourism and maximizing profits in those areas. So it is kind of, there isn't enough research that shows us how things have been done in the past there. So we know that it was way better because, the land wasn't degraded and all of that. So there are some biological um, indications that tell us it was better somehow, and there were more plants, there was more diversity, which we can bring in the present, and it would actually help us with climate change in those places. And yeah, as I said, one of the places that I was looking at is the Danube Delta in Romania. So it's actually called the Amazon of Europe. Is one of the most like biodiverse places. So it has quite a lot of cool species of animals and plants. And people there do fishing. And so they practice aquaculture and I have been doing so for thousands of years, basically. And they have specific instruments that they use for fishing, made from local materials. They have specific boats that they use, that are specific to the area.
Okay,
Uh,
how do the boats look like?
the
Okay, you're
boats,
in my field now. Go.
yeah. So the boats are actually quite cool. They're kind of like canoes. So they float on the water somehow.
Yeah.
And but you have to like paddle backwards to move
Paddle
forwards.
backwards.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like you have
So you push water then.
yeah, you kind of push
Okay.
water with them.
All
Yeah.
right. Sure.
So apparently they're quite cool, and they have a flat bottom,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and elongated like ends somehow.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I like the I think the same type, not the same boat, but the same type of boats were used in like the Nile, I think,
Yeah.
and in Mesopotamia. I think we have some figures of those types of boats. But anyway, are they still used then today?
So there is an initiative to kind of use them again because basically these boats are just made out of wood, local sourced wood. They used to be, at some point. And in the meantime, people just brought normal motorized boats in the region to help with like the tourist numbers and all of that because it's faster to just move with a motor boat.
Yeah.
Um, Although there is an initiative to bring them back, and the initiative was actually created by a canoeist. So yeah, yes,
Ah,
we have. So in Romania, used to be this guy, and he was a very big canoeist. He won like the gold medal, I think.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Who came from that region, so he learned how to paddle on the water using that type of boat. Um, and he eventually wanted to give back to his community, so he wanted to revive this boat and to train local people to build them and to use them basically, so
Yeah, yeah.
to create jobs, because it's also an issue there that loads of young people are leaving, so there aren't enough jobs. So it would have helped with loads of things if he would create these boats. So I think there is an initiative going on, but sadly he's passed away, so I'm not really sure how that changed since.
Maybe it's your turn to take over,
Yeah,
build canoes.
I was a bit disappointed because so when I did my master's, I noticed that after COVID, a lot of the cool initiatives in both of the sites that I was looking at were slowly disappearing because
Yeah.
COVID stopped loads of funding from the sites. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. I mean, COVID was unfortunate for everyone on Earth, I think. Except, I guess, I don't know, companies based on the internet. But anyway, so let's go back to the Danube Delta. So there was this practice of to help me understand, to cultivate, not cultivate, to have like fish farms. That's what you
Yeah.
meant,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That they just bred fishes
Yeah.
for food, I imagine. And this practice today is slowly disappearing, or has it disappeared already?
So right now there's a lot of illegal fishing going on. So there are some some novel aquaculture initiatives set up for especially for sturgeons. So sturgeons are quite a rare type of fish, and a lot of the types of sturgeons are found in the Danube Delta. So it's actually like a really important place for them to breed. Um, So a lot of novel initiatives focus on reviving like the sturgeon population. Um, but yeah, basically the traditions are kind of disappearing. So people are not using the, traditional fishing instruments that they used to once. So
Yeah.
so making those is disappearing. So the knowledge of making those and the knowledge of using them. Um, and also, nobody's really growing them anymore because they just go and fish illegally from the river. So
Yeah.
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 Oops. Yeah. So how does bringing back the old ways combat climate change in that area? What does it change specifically?
So it wouldn't necessarily like bring back the old ways, but we don't understand enough about how this of like we don't have a history of these instruments. We don't really know how many they where were they from, how they're made, stuff like that. Um, plus, we don't know anything about the boats. We don't really know anything about fishing in the area and like aquaculture and how it evolved. So I think just even, researching that can help the community be like, oh, okay, this is actually quite cool. We should keep this alive, because it's something that is just not looked into.
Yeah, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, big
And
project. I
yeah,
imagine
yeah. And
to that.
basically, I think so. My findings about that specific area were that people just aren't encouraged to live there anymore. So, because there are no jobs, young people just have no opportunities, so they leave. And the people that stay have to, do illegal fishing and some other things to survive, which is not great.
Yeah.
So, bringing back some of the old ways might not be the full solution, but it would certainly help if you have more sustainable tourism.
Yeah.
And you could, bring people in and create jobs through that, and create, oh, who's going to make the boats? Oh, let's
Yeah.
make them locally. Let's make the fishing rods locally. Yeah. So I think there are some ways to do good in the area by, getting this knowledge of like, how do you make this? Where do you find
Yeah.
what material is this made from? We don't even know that. So
Absolutely.
we just lack the knowledge to implement some of these cool solutions, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, it makes sense. It makes absolute sense, and I mean, I think this points out very crucially how for to combat climate change, to change things, it's not just about an archaeologist going down there and figuring out stuff. We need to have the the government chip in. We need to have as you said, the UN needs to recognize this. The archaeologist needs to go in. The people need to be able to have this knowledge and interact with
Mhm.
it. So it takes also, I imagine, it takes a couple of years, and or to the clock is kind of ticking, because if people, the older generations you know, die. Some knowledge is lost with past generations. So maybe some it's full archaeological, but maybe an ethnographic kind of study can help understand some things that we previously didn't. As you said, the guy, for example, like with the guy in the canoes, is a perfect example of how he was trying to bring back the knowledge, then he died, and now we're like, so what's happening? Who is doing that?
Yeah.
So I think that illustrates very nicely how archaeology can actually be part of all these bodies that need to work together to bring change. And you're talking about one place in the world, right? And the world is big, so yeah, it's terrifying to imagine the effort it takes to bring the change to many, many, many places around the world, and how the dynamics change. But I want to talk a bit about what you're doing right now, because we've been stuck in the past. So talk to me a bit about your DPhil. How did it came about? You went back to biology, and now what are you doing exactly?
Okay, so my DPhil, basically, I found this cool project that was advertised to me, and this project that I'm doing right now is still has something to do with water. It still has something to do with ecology, so protecting organisms in the water. And I am basically looking at how stressed organisms are in the water, based on where the water is. So if it's like in a agricultural area, are the organisms more stressed? in that water compared to, I don't know, being in the forest somewhere, you know? So
Okay.
I'm assessing multiple stressors in water right now. So this may not necessarily feel like a link, but I do think it is because, you need to understand how all of these factors influence the organisms that you're hoping to get out of the water eventually. So it's definitely a little bit more biological, but hopefully I will have a chapter where I'm going to look more into policy, so thinking about how do we actually integrate multiple stressors in policy, because you can't just look at one factor and create an entire law around one factor. It's you have to look at the overall image, and that is very difficult. Um, and yeah, I do hope that in the future I can probably go back to looking at aquaculture and um, how we can ensure that aquaculture have can basically create ecosystems that are living well and are not stressed, as you as you put
I,
it.
uh, I can't like get the thought out of my head that you're a therapist for organisms, and you're trying to make them less stressed. Amazing, loving, supporting it. But you before you came in here, you told me that your research is not maritime at all, and all we've been talking about is water and water and water. So I think your research is very much water oriented. Uh,
Yeah, it is. It is. It's less marine. It's more like freshwater at the moment.
mm,
Although, yeah, I would. I'm quite interested in seeing how coastal ecosystems, for example, differ. Because if
mm.
you have something along the coast, it might be different than river ecosystem or a pond in the middle of a field. So, yeah, I think it's definitely like so interesting. Like I really enjoy studying water, and I think when I looked into the Danube Delta and the organisms that live there, I was like, oh, this is so cool. This place is actually so cool. I would like to study something like this. So yeah, I do like water a lot, and mare in like Romanian means sea. So
I mean, I think in Latin as well, no? Lovely. So, which part of the world are you working in now for your DPhil?
So I am focused on the UK mainly. I hope I can probably do a more international chapter at some point, maybe a legislation
Mm.
chapter, but I will have to see about that. It's because it's just easier to work on UK sites if you are based in the UK, just because of how permissions work and field work and transport and all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of like prearranged that we'd have access to specific sites. So yeah, I just rolled with it.
Yeah, because it's a project, right? It's a funded project,
Yeah.
so things are in order for it. No, that's very nice. So, where do you see yourself going in the future? What do you want to do in the future? Do you want to stay in research? You want to get out of it? You did some teaching, as you said, so you have some real world experience. So, where do you see yourself going after the DPhil?
So this is actually an interesting question. I mean, I do think like I see myself in research, so I see myself doing a postdoc, 2, 3, I don't know how many I need to do. But definitely a postdoc would feel like the next step. Um, Although I don't really know what my postdoc would be in.
You don't need to. Like from now, it's like too early. You don't need to know the postdoc now, or
Yeah,
even if you want to go back into archaeology rather than biology and like switch back and forth.
yeah, I think I have quite a colorful CV, so I
Mm.
can probably migrate a little bit between disciplines. So I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, I definitely would like to do a postdoc. But if that for some reason doesn't happen, I wouldn't mind going back into teaching for a bit or working in the civil service on marine and freshwater ecosystems. So I am kind of open to possibilities, but I think my place is in research.
Lovely, lovely. So, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you want to tell the people listening before we close this
I think
episode?
you should never be scared to try something different, because at the end it's valuable experience and it makes you stand out from everybody else if you have, like, I don't know, degree in different things.
Absolutely. No, that's actually a fantastic message. I think in an era where we are, over fixated and over specialized in things, sometimes being able to, as you said, migrate from a couple of fields, it's maybe what makes you stand out from the crowd and be different. So, and I think it takes a lot of courage, being, as you said, you started a thesis and you said, oh, there was one paper writing about what I wanted to do, and I didn't necessarily agree with it. So I think for a master students who also immigrated to a different field from what they studied in undergrad, and they try to do something completely from the ground up, I think it's very impressive, and I think you should be very proud of that.
Thank you very much.
Will you publish it? Is it somewhere?
Yeah, it's published.
It's published. Yeah. Okay. Then people can find it and can read it. Excellent.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you very much, Stefania, for being here with me. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And I will see everyone in the next episode of the MARE Podcast. Bye.
Bye-bye.